I mean, who doesn't like taking that drive to the airport? Going beyond the fence, watching a few planes taking off, and oh yeah, a little hangar flying. Welcome to the Hangar13 episodes on the Experimental Aircraft channel. Recently, I reached out to the Sonex Builders Group to see if anybody might be interested in taking a short flight to my airport. Dennis Crabtrey jumped at the opportunity. All right, everyone, well, welcome to the very first edition of the Hangar13 episodes. You're here in my hangar at Foxtrot 95 Airport, Calhoun County, which is Blountstown, Florida. And I've got the very first visitor here with a Sonex, as you can see in the background. So, Dennis, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Dennis Crabtree. I'm from Dothan, Alabama. And this is my Sonex. We call her Tiny Shiny.
And you told me over the phone a little bit about your story in acquiring this and the adventure that aviation is, of course. And of course, when you purchase any aircraft, that's an adventure. But tell us a little bit about that experience, where you picked it up from, and the hours traveling back, and he actually broke this airplane in on the way back. But tell us a little bit about that.
This was my third airplane. I had decided I was going to go to a smaller thing that I could fly a little more often, and I found it posted on Barnstormers, and it was at the very northern edge of Iowa. So bought it, jumped in it, flew it home. Took me 2 days, 12 hours. And had to overnight in Arkansas due to a little bit of weather and honestly fatigue. And brought it home and it's flying great.
So this is the very first Sonex aircraft. Is it your first tailwheel?
It's my first tailwheel aircraft, yes.
All right, so put us in the cockpit. What was it like? You went to go buy this thing, you've never flown it before, and probably very little tailwheel time. Walk us through what it felt like to fly it, maybe the excitement, nervous, scared, whatever encompasses that. What was that like?
So the first time I got in it, the builder got in it, did a run-up. We decided that the aircraft was running just fine. Got in, followed the checklist like you normally would, and just really, really hoped that I was able to dance on the pedals just right to get it in the air. Took it for a lap. Everything seemed just fine on it. Came back, decided that I was going to keep it, and started it up and then pointed it south and headed towards the house.
So this is a first flight, not for the airplane, but for you. Did you do like a much longer rollout and a very, very shallow climb, and just what was that like? Weather was a challenge that day, so we couldn't really climb up to a nice cruise altitude in the beginning, and then just through the engine monitoring system, just continued to watch the CHTs, oil pressure, temperature, all the standard things that you would do. It didn't have very many hours on it when I bought it. It was still essentially in break-in period. And as I came south, just scan through the EIS constantly. Okay, and what kind of, this has the AeroV, which is the 80 horsepower. Correct. And what kind of numbers are you seeing from that, both climb, cruise, and that kind of stuff? You told me earlier that you fly off of CHT, not off of RPM or speed, but tell me first the speeds that you're operating at.
Right. On the way down, I wasn't able to get as much out of it as I thought. As I said, the engine was still really kind of breaking in. I planned for 90 knots, right at about 105 miles an hour. On the way down here today, I got 115 to 116 miles an hour. Really 3,000, 3,200 RPM. It's definitely breaking in and settling in real good. So that's about it. Yeah, about 4 gallons an hour.
4 gallons an hour. That's really good. What is the RPM range? I think you said earlier that the red line is 34. So what kind of range do you operate?
I try to keep it between 3,000 and 3,200. They say you can cruise at 3,200 all day. So 3,200 plus or minus 200 is really where it's happy.
Got it. And this is, again, the AeroV 80 horsepower. It's a very unique aircraft that it's the Sonex, but it's built more like the 1X. Tell us about that.
The builder built it for a single tall pilot. And it has the cutouts on the cowling because they were originally going to put a Jabiru in there. And well, the 1X came out, they decided they didn't want to go with Jabiru, they wanted to go with AeroV. So they decided to just keep the cowling and make the same cutouts as the 1X, and since the seat's in the middle anyway, It's just a Sonex, or really a 1X with outfolding wings and a whole lot of elbow room.
Yeah, we'll do a tour here in just a minute, but it's very much like a lazy boy. It's the widest Sonex cockpit, I think. That I haven't sat in a whole lot of them, but it's very comfortable. I was surprised how much room is in this as a single pilot. And then legroom, I mean, you are six?
I'm 6'4".
So 6'4", kind of a big guy, and I'm 6 foot myself, and it's very comfortable.
Yeah, and I didn't say the climb rate on it, but most of the time when I get in, I'm 100 pounds under gross weight, and I can get 750 feet per minute out of it pretty consistently. And then I like to keep my CHTs below 400 degrees, so I usually climb out between 90 and 100 miles an hour, and then it gets around 500 feet per minute from there.
Let's take just a minute to enjoy this beautiful blue sky, and thank our sponsors. We are partnering with great companies like Dynon Avionics, Airworx, Airtech Coatings, Clemens Insurance Agency. These sponsors make all of this original aviation content possible. So I invite you after this video to check out the links below and say hello to our sponsors. Tell them you found them here on the Experimental Aircraft channel. Thank you to everyone for your support. Let's jump back in. I'm going to back up just for a second here and talk a little bit about you and your background in aviation, both professionally and then privately, I guess. What is your background?
Sure, I'm a retired Army aviator. I flew Chinooks for 17 years. After that, the last 3 years of my career, I started really getting into airplanes. This is my third one. I've had a Cherokee 6260 and a Cherokee 180. Since I spent most of the time flying by myself, I figure why do it for $75 an hour in gas when I can just do it for 15 to 20. So that's why I went with a smaller plane.
What were the other aircraft that you owned? This is the first experimental?
This is the first experimental. I had a Cherokee 6260 and a Piper Cherokee 180.
Okay. And what, obviously I would think the performance is a little bit better on this, but what's been your experience from a certified to experimental so far?
I think the difference between certified and experimental really is just a matter of building confidence in the aircraft and all the components. And then with the Sonex, it's so much lighter than the aircraft that I'm used to flying. The effects of wind and that type of thing, turbulence, because in a Chinook you can literally fly in almost anything. Cherokee 6 is basically the Chinook of the general aviation world. You're
basically flying a semi-truck with rotor blades on it, right?
Yeah, you're going from 30,000 pounds when you're not really carrying anything but gas to, like I said, when I get in this thing, it's about 900 to 1,000 pounds.
Got it. Well, let's talk about in-flight again for a second. What are the handling characteristics of this being very light on the controls? You did a very long cross-country very early on in your ownership of this, so tell me what it's like to fly this in the air and the control feel and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, in the pitch axis, it's very, very light and sensitive. Roll on this one's a little bit heavier, but not as much as a certified aircraft would be, like my Cherokee 180 or Cherokee 6, obviously. So it just takes, if you want to fly it with precision, it takes a little bit more focus.
So are you kind of off the rudders and that stays pretty well straight and narrow, and you're just on pitch, or are you on everything because it's such a light aircraft?
It's such a light aircraft. You really do have to fly it. You can relax a little bit if you get in some smooth air, but typically, wind being what it is, it moves around and you have to react. Not a lot, but a little bit.
Okay. So this is the rudder is spring. There's springs in the rudder to try to keep that centered, or
no? There's no springs in the rudder at all.
Okay. So you're literally dancing kind of the whole time, or just locking your legs or your feet into a position while you're flying.
Yes, that's it.
Explain your starting procedure. Well, first and foremost, this is AeroV, and it has the AeroV injector carb.
Right. This is the AeroV 2180 2.1 with the air injector, and there's some people are concerned about the starting procedure and the fuel flow on it, but it's really not that complicated. You get your master and mags on, set your mix to full lean, and then you turn on the gas tank, wait about 3 to 5 seconds, go to full rich, clear prop, hit start. Usually starts in 3 to 5 blades, no issues at all.
polished metal.
Master switch on, mags are on, avionics off, reach up on my foot, fuel on, clear prop.
All right, Dennis, well, thank you for flying all the way out to my airport today to join me in Hangar 13 for the very first episode of Hangar 13. And you told me earlier that this aircraft might actually be for sale?
Yeah, I've got it posted for sale. I typically keep airplanes for about a year, and this one's rolling up on about 9 months, so it's up on Barnstormers.
And which airport are you based out of, in case somebody watching wants to fly over and take a look?
I'm based in Freedom Field. It's Alpha Lima 41. It's near Dothan, Alabama.
Awesome. Well, I'll put a link in the description, maybe to an email address or something, in case you're interested in purchasing this awesome airplane. Well, thanks for joining us again. The very first episode on Hangar 13. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for stopping by Hangar 13. If you or someone you know would be interested in being on the show, send us a message to info@experimentalaircraftchannel.com. And be sure to check out our brand new website. I'll see you at the airport.